So if you want to use the PowerPoint there, well, there's two there, okay? But the screen, when I've got it all adjusted, so when I put it up, it'll all be in focus and everything.
Yeah.
But you can reach around. A laser pointer. Yeah. Yeah. Which is better than the old white arrow one I had before. So as I say, this is the holiday that I took to South America with the Peru extension last September, and this is Madrid Airport. Actually, and this will appeal to you, Alan, as an architect, I curse myself a little bit because, I mean, this is Madrid Airport, just to say, look, we flew from Heathrow to Madrid and then Madrid on to Rio de Janeiro, but the sort of boarding part, or just around the corner from here, which is where we went to board, it's real state-of-the-art. I've never seen anything like it. And I didn't photograph it. I took this sort of rather boring routine shot, but it's real state-of-the-art, curved roofs. It really is. It's almost like something of Doctor Who, you know, very impressive. But not on this shot. So this is Madrid Airport. Now, this is, when we, excuse me, let me just go back on this one. I don't think I skipped one, but yeah, we arrived in Rio de Janeiro, and the first thing we did, we were sitting in the lounge of our hotel, and some woman, I say rep, came up to us. I say us, there were two Welsh women. That's one of them there in the bottom right picture of myself. And she said, would you like, we'll take you on a free shuttle bus and bring you back to look round the H.J. Stern, sorry, that's my glasses, the H.J. Stern diamond factory, for want of a better word. And we said, yes, great. Little knowing that later on in the week, the whole group were going to go on it if they wanted to, free. So we went on the first morning there, sort of thing. And it's a very posh, it's very upmarket, very expensive. And what they do is they grind the diamonds here, they shape them and they display them, and you get a history of what it's all about. Now, I'd never heard of this H.J. Stern, but they have got, and there they are, shaping the diamonds, polishing them or whatever. But they have got branches all over the world, not I don't think in the UK, but all over the world, and it was very impressive going around here, but it was upmarket, my goodness me. Expensive stuff. So this is, you know, them doing the business as it were. And I think the reason I've got similar looking shots is that the flash was or wasn't going off, I can't remember, but there seems to be a certain amount of duplication. And you've got the display gallery as well, display panel. And this is, you know, what you might call the proper things on display, as seen from just pictures. And this is in a part of Rio de Janeiro, so we're in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, called Ipanema. And that's where they, and it is a hard sell. It wasn't with me, because it was mostly women's stuff. But the two women I was with, there they are over there, the ones where you can see the faces, not the girl in the middle with her back to us who's one of the sales staff. But I was with them, and we sat down at a table, and there was a woman, middle-aged, late middle-aged woman, who was doing the sell. And it was deflected from me because she was focusing on them, you see, and there wasn't much for men anyway. But the woman on the right, I think it was, as we looked, the fairer-haired woman, ended up buying something, and I think it was pretty expensive. I'm not saying she was talked into it. I don't think she was. I mean, if she hadn't wanted it, she wouldn't have got it. I think I might say that. But having said that, you could see that the woman was professionally trained. Who was doing the selling. And here again, that's the same thing. And this, funny enough, the only thing I bought, I did buy something here, oddly enough, in the shop, nothing to do with the diamonds, but I bought a video, checking that it was a PAL video, of Brazil generally. It was a general video about Brazil, which included a fair bit of where I didn't go to. So I did buy something here. I keep forgetting, I have to keep telling myself that, but I certainly didn't buy any diamonds or anything. Very expensive. And again, H.J. Stern. Right, this is our hotel in Rio de Janeiro was on the famous Copacabana beach. Now, I was extremely lucky with the weather all through the holiday, and having said that, the day we arrived, and this is the day after we arrived, I think it's the day after, might even be the same day, the weather was raining, which was very unusual for Rio, but it didn't last long. So I took these shots in the drizzle, as it were, and this is the world-famous Copacabana beach. And at the end there, and I'll point it out now, here's my new toy, at the end there, and I'll make reference to this later, is a fort. There's a fort, and I'll come back to that later. And at the end here also, you've got sort of a fishing setup. I'll refer to that later. And this was taken from my hotel window. And I was panning around, you see. This is a face-on shot. Good surfing country, this. And you see the lights there where it's all lit up at night. Nice sort of decorated promenade. And this is the other end. And here again, so this is all Copacabana Beach. I have an idea that actually at the end there, that isn't actually called Copacabana Beach. Now here, this is the world famous, I think I've got this right, Sugarloaf Mountain. I think it's that one there. Shrouded in cloud at the top, and I'll come back to that later. But we were fortunate in that our hotel was on this beach. Right, I then walked inland, as it were. This is parallel to the beach, so the beach is sort of down the road there, not far. And I was looking for something to eat, and it wasn't chucking it down, but it was drizzling, I think. And I did find something. Quite an unusual place, actually, the place I found to eat. You went in there, and they charged you according to the weight of the food, so you help yourself, and then they weighed it, and according to the weight of what you've got, so you paid more for more weight. Quite an unusual thing there. Yeah, this is so that previous street is sort of up there, as it were. The beach is over there, and 24 degrees Celsius, and yeah, this was I think it was a Sunday morning, but it was dull, but it didn't last, this dull weather. And a lot of eating places along here. And you get none there, admittedly, but you get some street kids. And you think to yourself, hang on, you know, if that were England, there'd be social services down here, you know, I mean, because these boys are vulnerable, and they tend to hang about, they're young boys, and they tend to hang about around Burger King type places, of which there are a fair number, you know. Right, here again, this is Copacabana Beach, Sugarloaf Mountain, I'll come on to that later there. Very famous mountain. It's very mountainous here. But this was dull when I took that. And again, just panning along the beach itself. There's the fort, again, that I mentioned earlier. This looks at a glance, I can't quite tell, but that could well be a volleyball net, but whether it is or not, all the way along the beach, you get, on a good day, no wonder Brazil is a good footballing nation, because you get kids playing football, all the time. And I don't just mean kicking the ball around idly. There are goalposts set up, a lot, proper goalposts, and volleyball. It's a real cool place to be, Copacabana Beach, on a nice day. And you can see why it's surfing water there. It's like this all the time. And this was a sand model. I think they were collecting for some charity or something or other. But this was some sort of sand model on Copacabana Beach. Here again, the surf in the background, the fort over there. And this was where bathers changed or could change, and I think there were loos in there as well. And as I say, the promenade has got, or whatever it's called, it's got this sort of design. Right, we went up Sugarloaf Mountain, and it's a cable car ride. This was quite late on in the day. And as I said, it's a cable car ride, and you do it in two stages, if I remember right. In other words, you don't go straight from ground level to the cable car, to the top, I beg your pardon. There's an intermediate stop I think. I got a bit muddled on that. And this is part of the cable car setup. I'm not certain offhand whether that actually is the top of Sugarloaf Mountain or whether it's the intermediate sort of thing. Now I think we are now at the top of Sugarloaf Mountain, looking down. That looks like a helicopter pad to me, although I'm not absolutely certain. But if we're not at the top, we're at the intermediate place. I don't think that beach is Copacabana Beach. I'm not certain. I don't think it is. There are a lot of. I got muddled. There are a lot of beaches around, and obviously you need good weather for a perfect view. But what we got was better than nothing. We could see something. Certainly, it wasn't a wasted journey. But obviously, if it's wall-to-wall sunshine, it's better. And here again, panning around. It was getting late on this, panning around, and we've got here the beach, one of the beaches, and I think we're at the top of Sugarloaf Mountain. Another view, and I'll assume it's from the top of Sugarloaf Mountain, another view panning around. Funnily enough, I happened to have the news on a few weeks after I got back. It was the 12 o'clock midnight news, and it said that there'd been a mishap with the cable car. Some people had to be rescued. One of the wires or something or other had snapped, and the cable car was suspended in mid-air over the gorge because it's a sheer drop, and the people had to be rescued. I think the fire services somehow managed to haul it in to the station, and the people had to climb out with ladders through the roof. And funny enough, I didn't hear any other mention of it. I just caught it on the late night news and didn't hear any other mention of that. Yeah, this is part of the that is Sugarloaf Mountain, surely. So it may be that the other shots, unless we're on the way back, I'm not quite certain, they may have been intermediate shots, but that certainly is the top of Sugarloaf Mountain. And the cable car goes to the top there. And we're at the top now, I think, without a shadow of doubt, if we weren't before. When I come to label my slides up posh, I'll probably have all this sorted out. You know, I'll read around and so on. And that is, I guess, at the top. Or is that en route? I'm not quite certain, but you're up high. It's one of the sights of Rio de Janeiro. Cable car. It may be that this is at the top and that's a cable car going back down, or perhaps just coming in. But you think yourself, blimey, you know, if anything happened to that, you wouldn't stand a chance if the thing plunged down. And here again, the cable car. A view. Because when you get to these sort of places, you've got a 360-degree circle choice of photographs. You know, you always need a sort of Cinerama camera. So although the weather wasn't perfect, at least we could see something. Because it would be very disappointing to go that far and get a complete blackout. You know, just see other mist right in front of your nose. I mean, that'd be a waste of time, really. This. I hope this is from the top of the Sugarloaf Mountain. If not, it's part of the way up or down sort of thing. That thing there features a lot in postcard. I don't know if it's some sort of sports surface, but it seems to feature a lot in photos. You know, looking down. This is definitely at the top. I've no shadow about that. So, you know, you go over there to get on. I presume that's where we got off, cable car over there. And this is definitely at the top of the mountain, I know that. Rather an ugly looking thing, isn't it, really? Looks quite old, really. And I suppose now we're perhaps on the way down, having been at the top up there, maybe. This is, this is, I think, this was at the intermediate stop where we had an included drink or drinks, and I think I took this shot looking down over a beach, a particular beach of Rio at night, So I think we were at the sort of halfway house, the intermediate stage between the ground and the top of the mountain. I think this was the sort of intermediate stop, and it was dark on the way back, if I remember rightly. The nighttime scene. Ditto, perhaps. And again, maybe. They're certainly nighttime shots. Unless that was... I'll have to check this sometime. Unless that was taken from my hotel. It may be that was taken from my hotel, and that those that were back at Copacabana Beach, and those are the waves breaking. Yeah, it could be, actually. It could be, with the floodlights there. Because that looks to me of the same sort of height as the ones I was showing you earlier, you know, in daylight. Just go back the previous one. No, I think that possibly is the intermediate stop one, whereas that one, hopefully, is from my hotel window. A nighttime shot of an earlier daytime one. So anyway. Right, now then, it brightened up. This is the promenade at Copacabana, and all the time people are doing this fitness thing. I've never been to Venice Beach in Los Angeles, but I've seen pictures of it. They seem to do that there, and all the time you've got this constant stream of people training, running, working out, call it what you will. So our hotel was over the road there somewhere, probably out of shot, probably to the right. The beach is to the left. It had brightened up by now. The weather had turned nice. So from then on, the weather everywhere we went was perfect. It was perfect. And here again, as I was mentioning earlier, and this is quite modest. I mean, this is, you know, you've got some volleyball going on here or whatever, but certainly the beach is much, not this particular section necessarily, but the beach generally is far more crowded with these activities. That looks a bit sparse in a way, although there's a game going on behind. And we were there in spring. I mean, September is their spring, and the weather was beautiful. It really, after that initial drizzle, it turned out really nice. Right, let's check. If it's not hot enough, let me know. What's this, I asked myself. Oh, I know. Oh, yes. We went up on a... I never certainly pronounced this. Funicular railway, is it? You know the type of thing I mean, where the railway goes up a sort of an incline. It's not a conventional railway. Yes, it's almost like a sort of a... It's almost like a cable car railway in a way. Yeah, that's it. You're on a rail. That's it. And on the way... It didn't come out very well, this, because there wasn't time to pose, but we would get as it were, but we were going up to the statue of Christ the Redeemer, and it was incredible. The views en route were incredible, but unfortunately the train, I'll call it train, is going quite fast, and you just don't get a chance to, you know, to set the camera up, as it were. Now then, we are, if we're not at the top by the statue, we're not far off perhaps. When I said earlier that there was something you always see, I was thinking of that, but I don't think that is what was earlier. But that features a lot on postcards looking down on Rio. And I thought it was in an earlier shot, and it wasn't that, I don't think. That looks like a sports complex. And this was taken still on the railway. We hadn't yet got to the base, still on the railway, earlier sort of thing. Right, this thing, I shouldn't say that, this statue of Christ the Redeemer, this is the back view, dominates Rio. It really is, you can see it, it's a landmark, you can see it for miles. And I tell you, it's hard work climbing that final stage, because the train takes you to where we are now, sort of thing. And then to get up to the base of the statue, you'll have to climb. And I can tell you, it is hard work. There's no other way, there's no lift or anything, it's hard work. The steps are steep, they're quite steep. Well, I found it hard work anyway, it was quite, I mean, well worth it, sure. But I have to say it was hard work. So if I can just raise that a bit, and that is it from the front. And this is in the same way, you know, that when on the television they represent Paris, Eiffel Tower, you know, there are standard landmarks, you know, Australia, Sydney Opera House, Ayers Rock. This is Rio. This woman here I got very friendly with, actually. American woman, Sandy. She emails me a lot, actually. And she works in Puerto Rico. And she sort of comes from North Carolina. And what her job is, she used to years ago teach TOTS, but her job is now working on American military bases, teaching adult education to military personnel, sort of thing. Marvellous views, you know, you are up high. I don't know whether, I think that could be Sugarloaf there, although I'm not certain. But marvellous views. And all these beaches, I've seen beaches all over the place. I mean, if you where are we? If you look, you've got, well, certainly there, I suppose, you know, and I get muddled as to which is which. Another beach, that could be Copacabana, I'm not certain. But you're spoilt for choice with the shots, and as I say, on a beautiful day, not quite the same if it's raining, is it? Even if you can see, you know, you need the brightness enhancement. And again, panning around there. And there's myself. Quite difficult to get a shot or get a space for a shot, because obviously everyone, it's a standard photo because you're at the top of steps with the statue in the background, and you know, people are vying for that space, as it were, and getting in the way. You can see they're all sort of getting excited. And again, panning around again from the top there by the statue, and there's that sort of distinctive shape. Whatever it is, it's a distinctive shape. This is it. This is, you know, it is hard work. I was on my way back, but there's the base of the statue, and I was photographing about there. But this climbing, it is hard work. And I suppose if it's hot, it makes it even worse. But then on the other hand, the bonus of a nice sunny shot is worth it. Oh yeah, this hasn't come out at all well, but on the way down, as I say, looking at, as on the way up, looking right and left, you get marvellous views. That's some sort of living settlement, but it all happens so quickly that you just take a chance with them. This is Copacabana. So those earlier shots that I took in the dull weather when I first got to Rio, you're now sort of seeing them again with the brighter weather, and it was beautiful, it really was. And I said to someone, I think the temperature would have been about mid-70s, and it was a glorious day. And I said to someone about it, one of the locals or our guide, I forget now, and this bloke said, he said, this is nothing, he said. I mean, he said, you want to be here in the summer when it's really hot, you know. You think it's hot today, you ain't seen nothing, you know, it's sort of cool. And there's that fort again, which I keep on about it, but I make reference to that. And with that fort, let me just, for future reference, point out, see the dome, that's a gun turret there and there, certainly there, and the water lapping up there. I'm telling you this now because it'll make later shots more sensible, sort of thing. So a lovely promenade, sands there. No surfing going on, but nevertheless. Yeah. So this is from the hotel balcony, looking down on the beach. And the next one probably is panning left, yeah. There's Sugarloaf Mountain. It has a reputation, Copacabana Beach, for very attractive girls. I mean, really super beautiful girls in very, very skimpy bikinis and so on. So this is panning right, as it were. And that shot I'm pleased with. I had to wait that, because I remember rightly, there were a couple of people who were strolling down there. So I sort of had to wait till they were out of sight before I hung about, if I remember rightly, before I took the shot. Right, we then went on now what did we? Yeah, I have an idea. We went on. I can't remember now. Some sort of jungle tour or something or other. But we went on a Jeep, or two Jeeps. I think I think that was the other Jeep. The couple there, the woman, you see, there were only 6 of us from the UK. The others were mostly Americans. There were 2 there who lived in San Francisco who still retained their British citizenship, and that's the wife, the San Francisco wife as it was. She had an American accent, but she still had a British passport, and her husband did, and he had a much more obvious British accent. And there were a couple from Birmingham, or near Birmingham, the Midlands. That's the wife, and I guess that's the husband there. And there were the Welsh women that I pointed out to earlier in H.J. Stern. So there were 6 of us from the UK, 8 I suppose if you, well no, I don't count these from American UK ones. This woman here was quite interesting. She was she came from California, but she was a sort of a Hawaiian American or Filipino American or something or other. But she was a nurse, but I think in the Philippines she'd been a doctor, but her qualification wasn't recognised in the Philippines. And I'll say more about her later, part of the Jeep tour, and again. I mean, I'm rather dismissing this, but because I'm not into this sort of thing. I'm not into botany and trees and things, and I mean, I'm sounding a bit ignorant about it. I mean, to me, it all looks the same. But take it from me that it is all particular, it's all significant, it's all special. It's just that I'm ignorant about what everything is, you know. Right, we went for a meal. This was an optional thing, and part of it, oh yes, it was a good evening, this was. It was a double-edged thing. It was an extra package. We had a meal at a certain place first, lovely meal, and then we went on to a samba show, which was incredible, the samba show. And I was sitting, obviously I'm taking the shot, but when I was sitting to the meal, I was sitting there. That guy I was sitting next to on my left, he was an ex-army, American Army military man, I think. I got friendly. That's the couple from San Francisco that I was telling you about, who still retain their British nationality. That's the Welsh, one of the Welsh women. Very nice she was. And I'll point some of the others out later in a group shot. That was an American woman from New York. I got pretty friendly with her. These 2, funnily enough, it's funny, very nice people. I think they were Mexican, or, well, they lived in America, but I might have been Mexican. I hardly ever spoke to them. Just in the way things went through, I just sort of good morning, you know, but I never really spoke to them. It's funny that, you know, just didn't, for whatever reason. So there's the waiter taking, you know. And that is where we helped ourselves to go and sit down at the table where the previous shot was. So this is in Rio, the suburbs of Rio. Now this samba show was absolutely fantastic. I thought, oh, it'll be a touristy thing. Well, I suppose it was, but the colour, and a lot of the costumes, if not all of them, are what they use in the Rio Carnival. They're actually genuine ones, but the colour, it's a little bit smudged there, but the colour was overwhelming. And the noise as well. It was a very good evening. So that was the second part of the evening, with the meal previously being the first part. And again, it was sort of incredible. I'm not normally into this sort of thing, but I was really quite overwhelmed by this. And again, this girl here, the one, I say girl, I'm not really certain how old she was, but I just don't know. But before the show started, she was, if you like, the warm-up person, and she had this football, and she juggled this football on her knee, heading all the, for about 10 minutes, maybe more than that, and not once did that ball break away from her. And I thought, this is incredible, you know. You'd think just occasionally she'd miss a bounce or something or other, but she didn't. So I don't think she could have been that old. And I think this was probably at the end, the finale. Very, very colourful, this. And they invited, there was the MC or whatever was on the stage, and he was saying, you know, he'd call out, anyone from United Kingdom, anyone from Australia, Switzerland, Italy, and people in the audience would cheer if their country was mentioned. and he would get people on the stage. Well, by pure coincidence, I popped out to the loo, and it was a pure accident, this I'm blooming glad I did, when he called out the UK. Because otherwise I'd have been up on the book and you was meant to sing a song or something or other. And I think I was the only UK person there. And if I'd have responded, the others probably would have pointed at me, I'd have probably been on that blooming stage like a blooming lemon. So it was a pure, fortunate bit of fate that I popped out to the loo then. It wasn't planned that way. Right, now this fort, we had some spare time in the morning, and where you could do your own thing. And I thought, and I was the only one who did this, we all just wandered off and did our own thing. I thought, well, I'm going to that fort, see that fort, and I'm glad I did. It really was interesting. Not many people there, it really was interesting. And I think I was the only one that visited it. And it is still partly used as an army barracks, I think. And now this is looking back, you see, towards Copacabana Beach. So our hotel was there somewhere on the left. This is looking back towards Copacabana Beach. And it's overexposed that, but old guns here. So you've got the sea, or whatever, the water lapping up there sort of thing, but it's overexposed there. And this is one of the, whatever you call them, fort, I forget what you call them now, but obviously some sort of fortress installation. And you can climb all up on the top there, on the right, you can climb all up there. And this is, I remember I pointed out earlier, very, very early on, about the water lapping up against the sides. Well, this is it, you see. So this is lapping up against the walls of the fort, sticking out into the water. And you can go inside as well, and when you go inside, I mean, I didn't go into every room, but you've got, these are the barrack rooms of yesteryear, I mean, I don't know, beginning of the century, whenever, where the military personnel used to sleep. And here again, these models are almost lifelike, but obviously that seems like a communications room that was, I guess. This is inside the fort. This might be what they call the museum part of the fort anyway. Now, remember I pointed out in the distance earlier on the gun turrets, whatever they're called. Well, there they are. Obviously not used now. But you can walk, as I did, all along there. But don't fall into that lot, because, these are the strong surf waters. But it's got a sort of wild beauty about it. A photograph of some of the kids, and this is, I think, their school uniform. This red and white appears to be their school uniform, summer uniform. This little guy here was determined to get, he was not exactly following me, but he was determined to get in the full frontal in the shot, as it were, which he did. So this is at the fort, panning left of the previous shot. This girl here on the left there with the letter K on her top there, just after I took this shot, literally just a split second, she yawned. She was a lovely girl, actually. She was with her mother. They were both Americans from Ohio. And she was with her mother and daughter, and they were bonding, getting to know each other. Lovely couple, actually. And I said to the mother, I said, your daughter, I said, I suppose she's just out of high school. I thought she was about 18. In fact, she's 28. I thought she was about 18. Didn't look at 28 to me there. But really nice couple, actually. So just after I told her, I said, just after I said, I may even have said I got you yawning, but I didn't. It was just a split second afterwards she yawned. It's funny how you remember little things like that. I mean, it's a trivial thing. And there's one of the Welsh women looking at the there. Right, so this is the gardens of this place. You could take, or ground, this palace, whatever it was. The trouble is you could take photographs there, and again, and again. Palace. I remember this shot. Just as I was taking it, this guy, I don't think he did it deliberately, but I still sort of cussed. This employee on the right there walked in front of the camera. and I took a shot afterwards. I'm not very good on flowers, there may be orchids there. Right, we're now on our way to, where are we on our way to? Where did we go? Do you know there were altogether on this holiday I took 11 flights, 7 internal ones, 2 going, via Madrid, and 2 coming back. So we're on our way to, good question, it'll come to me probably when I see. So these are sort of en route aeroplane shots. Yes, to Iguazu. Now this was absolutely fantastic. I'd heard about these Iguazu falls. This is nothing what you're seeing here. But I've been to Niagara. They knocked Niagara into a cocked hat. I've never been to Victoria Falls, but I know someone who has, and he says these Iguazu Falls are a lot better than Victoria Falls. There are about altogether 250 falls, or is it 270? Well into the 200s. And this was just the first glimpse that I had of them. So we're still in Brazil. We're still in Brazil. Although Iguazu, the falls, there is an Argentinian side. Like with Niagara, there's America, Canada, so there's an Argentinian side to falls. But we're still in Brazil. So we were still flying. That was an internal flight just now within Brazil. And again, but this is nothing compared to what was coming. Iguazu Falls. And again, here again, nothing at all compared to what we had in store. But because you don't know what's round the corner, and you take the shots because you don't know what's going to come. Mark Yon would have taken them anyway. I mean, I think they're good shots. This was a group photo. The reason it's come out dark is quite easy to explain. Everyone was saying to whoever it was who was taking the photo, it may have been the guide, everyone was saying, handing the guide the camera, right, and saying, right, and then running back to get into place and saying, right, take the group photo with my camera. Well, I was the last one there. And what I did, I thought, well, I think that they were about to break up, and I said, hang on, I want one as well. So I went to where the person who was taking it was standing, the guide or whoever, and because I didn't want to keep them waiting, I didn't adjust the light, the exposure, very well. But I thought, well, so when I got back, he took it on my exposure sort of thing, and it's somewhat dark, but it's better than nothing. Just point out some people to you, I won't go through them all necessarily. This woman here was quite remarkable. That was her daughter. She was a Chinese American, and she was 80, I think, and my goodness me, she did everything, she really did. This chap was a lawyer from New York City or New York, strange sort of bloke in a way. He was a bit strange too, that guy on the wing. And this bloke, I think he mixed in quite good circles. He mixed with high court judges in the state and so on. But we got on well. It was a good company. He was from California, Filipino American perhaps, and they were from the West Indies, I think, those two. This chap was probably the youngest. He was cool. He was a nice chap actually, and he was 19, and he was an American, but I think he was a sort of Oriental American, and he was doing business studies. He came from Japan originally, I think, Japanese American. The falls in the background. Right. One thing about these falls, which of course slides can never convey, is the noise of them. The noise of them. It was a fantastic day, this. I'll elaborate that later. All the days were brilliant days. Maybe this was the most brilliant. It was certainly brilliant for various reasons. So, you're walking by, seeing these things in all their glory, but there was still a lot better to come. And these walk-away things, you can, and I did, walk along them. But be warned if you do, and this is part of the fun, you get drenched with the spray, you get saturated with the spray, but it's worth it. Keep your camera covered over, but it's worth it. So walking along there, I walked so far along, I think it was that one, and, be prepared to get drenched with the spray. But I wouldn't have missed it for anything. It was tremendous. And the noise. And standing next to that, I mean, literally, you could almost reach out and touch the water. and the noise was deafening. I keep on about this, but it was deafening. It was deafening. That one much more so than the other one, sort of thing. You know, you're almost in the falls almost. And this is just a glimpse. This is just a glimpse. That brown water. Wanted to do. This was optional. This was optional. And what I was doing here, I was trying to waste my film, because what we were going to get on to, those of us who took the option, you know, these sort of landing craft that Marines go ashore in, and they take about 6, they're rubber dinghy things, and they sort of stick up in the air at the front and they go fast. It was that sort of thing. Well, I knew that I was coming towards the end of my film, and this craft ride was going to take us right up to the falls. And I knew I wasn't going to be able physically to change my films in that sort of environment. So I was deliberately, and this shot may have been one of them, I was deliberately taking, in a sense, any old thing, and this may well have been one of them, so I could change my film before I got on the craft, on the watercraft. Actually, it was here, or near here, one of my camera case, the lid part, which is on with studs, fell off, and it went down the slope there, and the guide, the guide for this particular walk, he went down and got it for me. If he hadn't have been there, it would have been, shall I chance it or shall I leave it? It was that sort of distance, but he went down and got it for me. Well, certainly the woman is off the top of my head with the blue top backing onto us. Right, so that's the sort of craft we got on, that type of thing. And that may well have been where we actually got on. We had to have life jackets on, these thick, big life jackets. And we were told that be prepared to get saturated. And be prepared, you know, for the experience of a lifetime, because what they're going to do is they're going to drive this boat thing right up to the falls. You're going to go right up to the bottom of them. And you are going to get saturated. Now they give you, so you know, but you'll love it. And they give you plastic bags for your camera, and I think for your head, but they don't give you plastic raincoats or anything, although if you've got your own, fair enough, I suppose. And I thought to myself, so we set off, we're on the craft now, and I got muddled, but one side I think was Argentina, the other side was Brazil, and I think you had Paraguay as well. I used to forget which shore was which sort of thing. But we set off on the old boat. Now there are the falls in the distance, and we were getting closer. And I thought to myself, well, I don't know what all the fuss is about. I mean, I've got a bit splashed, but this is nothing. You know, what are they making all the fuss about? But I hadn't seen anything. Because what he then did, and obviously I haven't got this on slide because the camera would have dissolved in the water, but he drove right up, or was he drove right up in this sort of speedboat type thing, and the water overwhelms you, it comes at you, and you almost feel you're gasping for breath. It's a fantastic experience, wouldn't it, or anything, but you're almost overwhelmed by the water and you get drenched. So obviously I wasn't going to chance taking any slides there. That's about as near as I got with my slides on this. So I got this one. We were getting ever closer, you know. And possibly that's as near as I dare get. I've got, yeah. Right, I decided, just three of us, decided to take a helicopter ride over the falls. Now the real reason I did this, it was still at Iguazu, the real reason I did this was for the helicopter ride, because I'd never been on a helicopter, and I thought, well, I'm really doing this for the helicopter ride, to say I've been on a helicopter, rather than looking down on the falls and surrounding country as well. But that was great, I must admit. So we got on that, the three of us, plus the pilot. We got on that, and we're now heading for the falls, which you can see there in the distance. So this is the surrounding countryside, Iguazu, and we're getting ever closer. Falls are coming closer still. See the spray chucked up in the air. Late afternoon this. And there we are, you see. Not quite over them, but almost. And again. And again. And again. All taken from the helicopter. Always remember this. This is a sort of trivial personal thing, but when I went to pay for this, I said to the person at reception, near where the helicopter was, the little office, I said, will you take travellers' cheques, dollar travellers' cheques? I think it was $100. And they said, yes, you can pay by travellers' cheques. And they queried my signature. They said, this signature doesn't match the one that you put on, that was on it when the things were bought. I said, well, it is. And I was trying to say, look, I've just come off this blooming boat ride thing where I got drenched and, you know, overwhelmed sort of thing, in a very exciting way. So I'm probably not sort of writing straight, but they, in the end, they took them. But it's the first time ever that I've been queried over two signatures not matching the travel checks. And funny enough, it happened later on in the holiday as well. Right, so we're still in the helicopter overlooking the falls, and again. And as I said, there is an Argentinian side to them, as well as a Brazilian side. And again, because, you know, these sort of views, the camera just sort of runs away with the shots. You know, you just keep taking them, sort of thing. And I think we were on our way back now to the helicopter pad. Yeah. Now, just going back to the previous shot. As using it as a sort of a break pause, I managed to squeeze in an extra country, and this is what the next shot, which you just got a glimpse of, is about, because that woman who was a nurse who'd been a doctor, I think, the two of us decided, someone said, look, you're near to Paraguay, about 20 minutes taxi ride from Paraguay. So the two of us thought, and I think we both had the same rationale, well, let's go into Paraguay, just to say we've been, just to cross over to say we've been. So the hotel reception ordered us the taxi, we shared the price between us, and the taxi driver, the Brazilian taxi driver was very helpful, and he said, right, I'll take you. And he took us, and I forget the name of the place, but it was just over the border, and I mean, it was... I can say I've been to Paraguay, but I hadn't reckoned to go there. This wasn't on my list. So in all, I did 6 South American countries, plus Spain, which sort of doesn't count, you know, with the flights there and back. And Paraguay wasn't on in my original thoughts. In fact, someone I know, the minister at the church on the top road, St. Augustine's, I know him quite well. He did missionary work in Paraguay, and when he found out I was going to South America, he said, "Are you going to Paraguay?" This was fairly recently, before I went in the summer. And I said, "No," I said, "it's not on the list." Well, I haven't seen it since, but I'd like to tell him that I did manage to go. So we went, but unfortunately, I mean, the taxi driver was great. We got out where we indicated, he stopped and we got out. But I was taking token shots, and they didn't come out very well. So it's just, you know, just didn't come out very well.
So how long were you in Paraguay?
Oh, probably about 20 minutes, something like that. But the thing I remember about this place, so these shots haven't come out at all well. The thing I remember about this place particularly is how filthy it was. Literally, one was ankle deep in the rubbish in the streets. Literally, ankle deep. And that, you know, you sort of remember things like that. But I can say I've been to Paraguay, you know. And as I say, the taxi driver was very obliging. But it was just unfortunate that the slides didn't come out. But I really wasn't expecting very much, I must admit. I forget the name of the place, but when I come to label up my slides, I'll look it up on the atlas, I think, and with a bit of luck I'll find it with a label. And here again, we're still in Paraguay. And again, it was a town place where we were. And we might now be back at the border. I'm not awfully certain, but we might now be back at the border. By the way, in Brazil, they speak Portuguese. Everywhere else seems to be Spanish as their language. Right, this is on the Argentinian side of the falls. We've crossed over into Argentina, and I think this is the Argentinian side of the falls. And we're on a bridge looking down. So the water there, I think, hasn't yet fallen over the falls. It's part of the sort of river leading up to the falls. Now here again, you see the water is about to drop down. It's boiling, isn't it? It's foaming, you can tell it, and the noise. It really is. I know I'm banging on about this, but I've been told about these, and I mean, it's incredible. There we are. Falls. Oh yes, we were now in Buenos Aires, and this is the sort of slum part of Buenos Aires in Argentina. Buenos Aires is the capital of Argentina. Buenos Aires is a very European city. It's the most European city in South America. You would almost be in Europe. Sophisticated, modern nightclubs, you know. And this looks like the sort of shantytown part. And again, so we were on our way from the airport, I think, to our hotel. Now our hotel, this is the reason you've got the borders there, this was the end of the film, I think. Our hotel was on what is said to be the widest avenue in the whole world. I can't remember whether it's July the 9th, or I think it's July the 15th Avenue. And I don't know if you can see it, but there's an obelisk down there. And this obelisk, which is on the avenue, our hotel was up enough, was on that side. But this obelisk is a landmark, so if you get lost, it's a good reference point. So Buenos Aires, July the 15th, or whatever it is, avenue, widest avenue in the world. Modern building. I don't know what you think of that, Alan. Modern building in Buenos Aires. I think we were told what it was, but I'm not awfully certain. Looked like radio, mobile phone aerials perhaps on that building on the right there. And this is, obviously it's a meal. I think this might have been an extra one. It's the woman I was telling you about, the American woman I got particularly friendly with on my left. Oh yeah, it was a tango show, I guess. This certainly is a part of a tango evening. The tango apparently is a very, its roots apparently are with the poor people and their poverty and depression of years ago. And it's a very sort of moody dance, almost depressing in a way, and jerky movements, and it's and this show took us through the history of the tango, and that was an optional evening. There's another that's later on in the same evening in the same show, tango, and again and again. So this was an evening out which we paid extra for, I think. Right. The Chinese lady of 80, Chinese-American lady, and the dumpy one that I said was a nurse that may have been a doctor, the three of us decided one Sunday afternoon to go to Uruguay. Now there was a bit of a dilemma here, because all the options I did, except for the one that clashed with this trip, because this was the only case where there was a clash of options. And the one that I missed out on, and I hummed and hawed, I was 50-50. Shall I go to Uruguay, as I'd planned to do, and the other two were going to come as well, or shall I go on the gaucho experience, not so much for the meal, but to see the gauchos in the countryside of Argentina? And I hummed and hawed, because I'd like to have done the gaucho thing, and I went on this, because I was hoping they'd all come back and say it was lousy, but they didn't. It was all, so this we did off our own back. The other one was the gaucho one was an optional one. And this is the ferry taking us across from Buenos Aires to Uruguay. And I remember this, it was a Sunday afternoon, so we're on the ferry, or whatever you call it, and we're now approaching, I think, Uruguay, or are we leaving? Yeah, I think we're approaching Uruguay here. Yeah, we certainly haven't boarded there. Then she insisted she take at the beginning of the next school that she take another one. I didn't really want to take them, but she said, "Oh, I'll take another one of you," and I sort of almost got talked into it. I was quite happy with that then. Put myself in Uruguay. I mean, basically, I just wanted to say I'd been to Uruguay. But having said that, it was a good little tour around actually. It was a good guy. Yeah, that was the one I didn't really want taken, but there you go. It was quite cold. Although it was sunny, I must admit. Or sunny-ish anyway. And we went, I think it was here, we went into a church. Yes, there's the other two people in the park. There's the guide in the sort of right of the three on the left. There's the Chinese lady. And there's the Chinese American, and there's the nurse woman, as it were, in the middle. But the old lady came, and all power to her elbow, you know. Now we're now on our way back on the boat, or whatever it was called, to Buenos Aires. I think we're probably approaching Buenos Aires in the distance there. Yes, as I said, Buenos Aires is a port, so we've got the dock area there. And we've just landed, I think, at the port of Buenos Aires, having been to Uruguay. So I'm just going to... And there you've got... That architecture is quite interesting, that dome place sort of thing on the left there. So that's the key. We were off the boat by then and back on terra firma in Buenos Aires. This is the avenue... a better shot perhaps we had before. There's the obelisk there. Our hotel was... No, then. I forget now, but it was... Yeah, that's it. Our hotel, I think, was below the NEC sign, there or thereabouts. And this is part of the widest avenue, or certainly the widest avenue in the whole world. July the 15th, I think it is, Avenue. July the something avenue in Buenos Aires. Now there's the Opera House, or whatever it's called. Now, we went in, some of us had some time to kill. Well, we all had time to kill, and some of us privately went round here, and it was brilliant. The trouble was you weren't allowed to take photos in the main auditorium. You could take them in the vestibule, in the foyer, but not the main auditorium. But I tried to sneak a couple, you know, without anyone looking, with, well, better than nothing, but obviously it's not the real thing.
It's strange, isn't it, why they won't allow us to take photographs?
Yes. I don't know whether it's copyright or whether they're afraid of flash damaging the thing, but you were allowed to take photos, as I say, in the foyer, vestibule, call it what you will, which is very impressive. There we are, and again. And it was very near to the hotel, so it was very convenient to go round the roof or dome or whatever. And there's a sort of a display part, and these are obviously very famous violins of yesteryear, I guess. I think it is said to be the third most famous or impressive. We're now on the plane to wherever, but just going back to the inside the auditorium, it was very impressive, but rather gloomy, rather depressing, because you picture this, you've got this huge opera house, and it's the next morning where the lights are very subdued. Very subdued. It was almost Phantom of the Opera-ish in a way, with, you know, the sort of haunted, almost sort of haunted. It was dark, subdued lighting, rather depressing in an absorbing sort of way. And then you imagine it when it's lit up at night, you know, with all the people in their finery and all the rest of it. But I wouldn't have missed it for anything, actually. It was a real experience. Right, now we're on our way now to, this is one of our flights. Now, where were we on our way to? Let me just see how the slides pan out. We were on our way, I think we were on our way, and are now in Santiago, the capital of Chile, which is where General Pinochet is living at the moment, I think. Yes, Santiago. The weather here was stunningly beautiful, and there you've got, and it's a constant backdrop, the snow-capped Andes mountains, and they are really beautiful. They are outstandingly, stunningly beautiful, the Andes. And as I said, we were so lucky with the weather. So we're now in Santiago, the capital of Chile. I think
So did you enjoy the visit to Uruguay rather than going on the other?
well,
That'd be great.
you see, yeah, I did. I think I would still do the same thing again. But I did have doubts because I thought to myself, well, come on, you know, you've got your extra country. You've got Paraguay, which I hadn't reckoned to go to. So you've got Paraguay. So if you didn't go to Uruguay, you know, you're still... But I was 50-50. But, no, I think I did the right thing. But I would have liked to have done the game show thing. I wasn't worried about... Apparently it was a fabulous meal of beef and that. I wasn't worried about that so much. But... as I said, I was hoping they'd all come back and say it was lousy. They all came back and said it was brilliant and the rest of it, you know. And they weren't just saying it, you know, just sort of... And I knew it would be. That they are, the tours are good. Right, we're in Santiago. I can't remember whether that was anything in particular, but it was a beautiful day here. You had a band playing, which was accompanying the changing of the guard. Now we all thought, of course, and here again, a beautiful day, we all thought, oh, it's the army. Looks like the army. In fact, they're the police. And the thing that was sort of surreal was that instead of playing military music, they were playing Tea for Two and the Charleston. They were playing sort of light, you know, you almost could sort of jive to it sort of thing, you know. But very impressive. And that was a party of Chilean school kids. What I noticed actually with the kids in the South American countries, certainly here, is that they could almost be English kids with their uniforms. The sort of, you know, pullover things, whatever you call them, the trousers. Very conservative in a way, you know. So they're dispersing after changing the guard. We then went round some place, some museum or somewhere, where we weren't allowed to take photos in the main body of the place, but you could sort of, on the stairwell there was this map and you could take that and so on, but you weren't allowed to take photos inside, although I did try and sneak one. But it was lots of Chilean architecture, whatever, you know. Now, I don't know what this was, but it was obviously very important because, well, I just happened to be walking by here, and obviously these were big cheeses because there were two, it may have been the chap, can't quite tell there, but may have been these two, but they were well dressed and they struck me as being political people. They were shaking hands, there were security men there was a television guy there, and they were obviously, it struck me as being some diplomatic, you know, whatever, but it was obviously very important because there were security guards there, plainclothes men. But I just happened by, I don't know what it was, I never will know, but, and that's me taken by it, or I think, anyway, Santiago de Chile. Oh yes, our hotel was called the Leonardo da Vinci Hotel, if I remember rightly, and it was in a beautiful setting. And that isn't our hotel, that's the other side of the road, but it was a lovely area of Santiago, beautiful part. And this was opposite, our hotel was sort of there, and you had these beautiful apartments with flowers and what have you opposite. And that was our hotel there. That was our hotel there, the Leonardo da Vinci. It was a really nice residential area. Oh boy. This was, we had an evening at, what was it? It was a sort of Chilean evening. Forgotten about that one actually. Yeah, Chilean evening. And we had a show. And in fact, in front of the stage there's a sort of a, what you might call an audience dance area. And one of the women, I don't know about from that particular group, but one of the women came down, or some of the women came down and sort of got hold of the men to go and sort of tango or disco with them. So I did, I don't mind doing that, in the area in front of the stage there. And that is it. That's where it's going on, or something like that. In fact, one of the guys, he saw me dancing, you know, because the woman sort of, you know, got hold of my hand. I mean, you didn't have to go, but you looked about sort of, you didn't. And I think he took a shot, or tried to take a shot with my camera. but not certain how successful it was, if at all. So this was a sort of a Chilean dance evening with a meal. It was an extra we paid for. That might be what he was, but he said, you know, I didn't know what to do, but I took it. I don't know whether that's me or not, sort of in the, just sort of left of centre. Can't tell really. But, oh, I don't know whether that went off accidentally or what. It may have done. Oh, I know where we are now, I think. We went to, still in Chile, yeah, we are still in Chile all the way through. We went to, and I always get them muddled here, Valparaiso and Vina del Mar, and I'm trying to think which was first. One, I think, Vina del Mar is a chic, smart seaside resort place, and Valparaiso is next to it. And this is a city or town in Chile, and I can't remember what we went to first. I think we went to Valparaiso first. I know it was a grey day, actually, or a grey morning. And even if I am right in saying that Valparaiso was first and Vina del Mar was second, I can't remember where one sort of place ends and the other begins. I think this is Vina del Mar. Quite chilly, perhaps. They're all, I mean, no pun intended, but they're all dressed up there in their winter woolies, as it were. So, Vina del Mar, I think. Now, obviously, that building is of some significance, but don't ask me what. I can't quite read what it says on there, but it's a grey building. Again, hopefully, Vina del Mar. Those houses look a bit precarious, or dwellings there. Looks like a funicular railway there. We're near the water here. Port, perhaps, of Vina del Mar. Ships. And we'd stopped here. That looks really quite depressing, but I think that's Vina del Mar. Sorry, when I've been saying Vina del Mar, I meant Valparaiso. I beg your pardon. So, for Vina del Mar, in the earlier slides, including this one, read Valparaiso, please. Valparaiso, not Vina del Mar. Sorry. Valparaiso, I think. Seabirds there. And again. Valparaiso. That's to do with oil. Valparaiso. That's what I assume anyway, Valparaiso. And again, I'm assuming Valparaiso. We stopped here.
Was this just a quick visit, or did you stay?
Yeah, it was really, yes, yeah. But it's one of the, it's unfortunate that it was grey, but it's one of the sort of standard tours out that you do to Valparaiso and Vina del Mar. So I'm assuming, again, this is Valparaiso. But it was hilly here. And this was at the stop, Valparaiso overlooking. Valparaiso again, hopefully. I couldn't really get very excited about this place, actually. Clock at Valparaiso, or are we in Vina del Mar? But one of these floral clocks, I've seen these before, you know.
It seems quite kind of harsh.
Yeah, grey, isn't it? So I'm going to say Valparaiso or Vina del Mar.
It's a bit like Dover.
Bit like where?
Dover.
Dover.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. Dover is a bit like that, isn't it? A little grey and. Yes, Dover all seems to be grey.
Yeah.
Valparaiso or Vina del Mar. I'm rather dismissing these places. I don't mean to, because they are well worth visiting. I know this because I've read it, sort of thing, you know, and I'm sure on sunny days, well, obviously they're better. I don't know whether that's a monkey tree or whatever, but Valparaiso or Vina del Mar. But they're standard places to visit, both of them. Valparaiso, Avila. Okay, Valparaiso, Avila, Del Mar. Gun turrets along the waterfront there. Gun place, what's what they're called?
It's a bit off-putting, isn't it?
Yeah.
As a tourist place.
Yeah, exactly. Valparaiso, Avila, Del Mar. And again. Again. When we were at Vina del Mar, I think it was Vina del Mar, there was a sort of an incident. That chap who was, when we stopped for lunch along the, not here, along the front, and the eating place we went into, restaurant, was on the opposite side of the road to the sea, and on the sort of promenade pavement on the sea side there was a little band of gypsies, and they were selling things, and I think they were gypsies, and they were sort of peasant types, and there weren't that many of them, little group, and I think there were a couple of little kids and women and a couple of men perhaps. Well, apparently that Japanese chap I was telling you about, that 90-year-old Japanese-American chap, what they did, he must have inquired about something, and I think they snatched his wallet or something or other, and there was something like that, where they just snatched his wallet. Well, he called the police, and he came back in a police car, but they'd gone, they legged it, they'd gone, sort of thing. Or they tried to take money from his wallet or something or other. Right, Valparaiso or Vina del Mar, Vina del Mar. Oh, this is a genuine statue from Easter Island. A genuine statue from Easter Island, and it's the saying goes that if you touch it once, which is why those people are trying to do it, if you touch it once, you will live to be 100. But you've only got to touch it once, so if you touch it twice, then the spell is broken, sort of thing. And that man on the left in the blue, I pointed that out earlier, was an American. I think he used to work. He was in the American army. I think he had quite a good rank. Well, his wife, to the right as we look, was a very small woman. She sort of looked Oriental American, if you know what I mean. She was a very small woman. And you can see there she's struggling to make contact. And there's the old Chinese American lady on the right there. So this was a genuine statue brought from Easter Island. And we're in Vila del Mar, perhaps. This is. I know what this was. This was our farewell dinner, because we started off about 20, and about 30, and only about 20 were going to go on to Peru. In other words, 10 were leaving us, not going on to Peru, but going back home or wherever. And this was a farewell dinner, which we were all at. But really it was to say goodbye to the 10 who weren't going to go on to Peru. And that's the girl on the right-hand table on the left there. I think she's very attractive, I must admit. But she doesn't look 28 to me. But she's a lovely girl, and her and the mother were bonding to get to know each other.
Why is that?
Well, I don't know, you see, because I said to because the mother said to me, she said, "I'm so thrilled," she said it sort of privately, she said, "I'm so thrilled that my daughter," I forget her name, my daughter wanted to come on holiday with me so we'd be together. And I said that to the daughter. I said, "Don't tell your mother I said this." I said, "But she told me she's really thrilled that the two of you are together." And you say, why is that? Well, I suppose, don't ask me exactly why, but I suppose they just wanted to get to know each other better as a mother and daughter. There was a younger daughter at home, and there's a son of 30 who's married with 3 little girls. But they didn't go on to Peru, and I think the reason they didn't go on to Peru, I may be wrong on this, was that the mother couldn't get the time off, you see, because you'd be eating into a third week. But I think she's very attractive, actually. Now this, you know, when I may have told you this before, but someone said that our holiday, and all my holidays are like this really, they're adventures. Someone said that when you get back and you tell people what you saw and did and experienced, they won't believe you. And one example is our guide in Lima said, when you tell people back home that when you went to photograph the riot police, because there'd been potential trouble in Peru and not least Lima. In fact, I was beginning to wonder, it was on the news, their shields and their visors and truncheons and God knows what else. And a couple of us thought, dare we photograph or chance our arm and try to photograph the riot police? Because these guys are anti-riot police, they're obviously tough cookies. Dare we risk it? But what a scoop if we dare. You know, what a scoop if we dare. Well, we dared. And as the guide said to us in Lima, she said, when you tell people, when you get back home, that when you went to photograph the riot police or the anti-riot police, they waved at you. Admittedly, the two slides I've got, they're not waving, but otherwise they were. They waved at you, people won't believe you. But of course tourists don't present a threat, you see. But, yeah. There's the riot police again. I think a different lot. I mean, they seem to be smiling there. I did acknowledge them, you know. In fact, it looks like a woman over there, or two people over there, particularly the woman almost even with them. Isn't she, you know? It's not the same lot as before, I don't think. Oh, this I think, this might be, in Lima, this might be the church of St. Francis of Assisi. I think it's a church to do with sort of animals, and there was a sort of market going on in the sort of grounds. Right, now we're on the plane, another internal flight perhaps. We're going now to Cuscos, I think. Now Cuscos is sort of Machu Picchu starting off territory, as it were. Now Cuscos, we were warned about this, and I knew this anyway perhaps, about the altitude. And we were told, when you get to Cuscos, the air is thin, be very careful because you'll suffer shortness of breath, possible sickness, because of the altitude. Well, you get off the plane and you think, well, I don't know, seems all right, I'm on my feet still, what's all the fuss about? But it's insidious, it catches up on you. And the next morning, this was the day of arrival, the next morning, a lot of us, and I thought it was just me, said we'd had headaches in the night, and that is the air, the thinness of air. Now there's some special tea concoction which they give you, which is, if you want to have it, which is supposed to help. But I don't know that it does, maybe it does. But you shouldn't exert yourself, you know, you should pace yourself. But it is very high. I forget exactly how high. And I think this is the beautiful day again. I think this is the main square, or the square in Cuscos. And that, yeah, if I remember rightly, we're now in Cuscos, and we're doing a tour. And this, I don't know if this used to be a monastery or something. I think we're in Cuscos. Now all of this, here again, I'm dismissing it out of ignorance, but we went round this place, and all of this I think is Inca architecture, and I believe the stones are all built at certain angles or something or other. I don't know whether it's to do with the sun, but it's not just any old how, it's all carefully thought out. And here again, this is something to do, I think, with the Incas. Right, let me just go on to the next shot, because I think this is looking down on Cuscos. It's poor, you know, here. Yes, we've just been round, or about to go round, the cathedral, I think, in Cuscos, and it was raining here. What annoys me about the rain, it's not so much the getting wet, it's getting the camera wet, because I like to take photos, and I don't like water, even a drop of water, getting onto the camera, you know. It's that rather than me personally getting. Now, this place is their Lama, I think, and there is one of the, a Peruvian shepherd woman, I suppose you'd say, wearing one of those hats. They all seem to wear these things. And we stopped here at, now what's the name of this place? I know the guy used to, help you remember it, he used to, they would say sexy woman. So I forget it's something like Saxa Woman or something like that, the place. And it's an ancient Inca place, I think. And no one seems to know how the Incas, I think I might say this, but I may be wrong, how they transported these huge stone blocks, which were from out of the area, how they managed to get them a long way and sort of build it all up. So this Saxa Woman, or whatever it's called, is a sort of ancient Inca place. That might be overlooking Cuscos down there. And these stones, I think, are all put down to an architectural pattern. They're not just flung down any old how, but it's a mystery as to how I think they were actually transported there. No one seems to know. And this is the general, this is around as well. Likewise, this Saxa Woman place, or however it's pronounced. And again, Saxa Woman. So I think this is all Inca territory, as it were, or ex-Inca territory. That statue over there in the distance, sort of slightly right of the centre of the picture, up a bit, we visited. But I think these stones were all perfectly shaped to fit together. I mean, they're not regular squares, they're sort of squarish. But they obviously have all been machined, for want of a better word, somehow. So they all sort of jigsaw together, they all sort of lock in together. And again. So if this is Inca architecture from years ago, or construction, well, whoever did it, I mean, it's quite something, isn't it? You know, they're heavy, obviously. And again, getting quite late-ish on in the afternoon, hence the sun's a bit weak. Mum, presumably, and the little kid. So this is Saxa Woman, maybe, with Cuscos down in the valley or wherever. And again, you know, Cuscos, hopefully. Cuscos again, all being well, you know. Likewise. And this is the statue that I referred to earlier, close up. And you've got there, I suppose you'd say they were peasants selling whatever. There's that old Chinese lady, she kept going. Saxa Woman or whatever, looking over, alright. Saxa Woman again, maybe. I mean, I tend to buy these things, not so much for them in their own right, but to help me load up the slides, you know.
Yeah, it's handy.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't write it all down as you're going along. And then
well, I can do that to a point, but, you know...
you miss out on what's going on.
Well, it's tricky. I think when I go to Kenya or Tanzania next year, I'll take a camcorder. I don't see taking both, unless I take a little miniature camera, you know. And also if I go to France as well, I might have a separate week by the made in the south of France. But then I suppose with the camcorder, to do it justice, I should talk into it and say, well, now we're at so-and-so. But then I suppose I could always talk over it if I showed it to people.
Yeah.
It's
that might be best.
a bit tricky, really. Way to Machu Picchu. Now, I tell people with Machu Picchu, it's a long day. It is a long old day, and it's well worth it, even for me. And I'm not interested in the Incas. I mean, I have to say that I'm not interested in the Incas, but I wouldn't have missed the experience for anything. But it's a long day, and what you do, and I never really quite worked this out, is you go up. It's a 3 to 4 hour train journey. There's the trains, or one of them, to, well, even then you're not at Machu Picchu, because when you get to the station at the other end, you've got a 25-minute bus ride in a rickety-ish old bus to get to Machu Picchu itself. Now this train ride, I mean, you go, you look down, you think, blimey, if it came off the rails, we wouldn't stand a chance, we'd fall down into the ravine there or whatever. And it's a switchback railway or something. I didn't quite understand it, but apparently it goes forward so far when you start off, and then it backs up or something or other. I don't know. But ours came off the rail, or there was a derailment, so we were kept for half an hour, before we sort of really got going. And when you're going on this train, and you actually go down, I psychologically think that we go up to Machu Picchu, but we were told no, that the altitude problem isn't so bad in Machu Picchu compared to Cusco, because you're not climbing up, you're climbing down, you're dropping in height. But it seemed to me, I don't know, sort of that we were climbing, and I didn't understand this sort of switchback or whatever it was. And you certainly see the poverty left and right, the village sort of poverty left and right of the train as you go up to Machu Picchu and come back down again. And I think this is where the train broke down and had derailed, and they were trying to get it right again, and I was taking photos out of the window sort of thing. But anyway, it's primitive. This is where, definitely, I think, where the train had stopped while we were waiting for it to be put back on the rails. But, it speaks for itself. That's alfalfa, I think, that green stuff. And there we are. Speaks for itself, really, doesn't it? Sort of poverty there. So this is, taken from the train, very countrified, very sort of peasant-like and primitive. And again, this is sort of looking out of the train window, I think. Now, this is poverty, isn't it? Not as bad as India, but now the reason I took this was to indicate that we were on this bus. Otherwise, there's a gap between the railway station and Machu Picchu, and although this shot is nothing really, it does indicate, look, we took a coach. This is the best I could do, because, it was cramped sort of thing. This is on the coach to do the last half hour of the journey to Machu Picchu. I think that woman, that hair on the left, is the white hair of the Chinese-American lady, I think. Right, we're now at Machu Picchu. I have to say that Machu Picchu is beautiful, but it's hard work. I mean, notwithstanding the train journey and the coach journey to get there, and all repeating it all on the way back, but actually there it is hard going. I'll tell you why in a moment. At least I thought it was. So this is Machu Picchu, or the area around Machu Picchu. That certainly is Machu Picchu, and that rock sticking up is a sort of standard shot, as it were. All the sort of standard picture of Machu Picchu. If you're only going to take one picture, it's bound to have that rock sticking up. And actually, it is possible to climb to the top of that rock, and I believe I'm right in saying, I think I might say that there's a dwelling at the top of it. This is Machu Picchu. That's a more representative shot. Now, when you're there, you can walk as little or as much as you like. I mean, we had a guide, but you weren't sort of bound to follow that guide around. I mean, you could do your own thing, as it were. But it is hard work, and not only because of the sort of walking mileage-wise, as it were, but the steps. You've got to be so careful with the steps, because it's hard work climbing the steps. And not only is it hard work climbing the steps, I mean, this isn't counting the normal level walking, but not only is it hard work climbing the steps, but they're rather dangerous because they're smoothed over on the edges. They're not sort of sharp right angles. They're worn, and you think to yourself, you know, you've only got to slip or lose your footing. And perhaps more on the way down the steps than up them. You've only got to do that, and you know, you've ripped your ankle and you're in trouble. So it really was hard work. I mean, I wouldn't have missed it for anything. And obviously, if I'd been interested in the Incas, then it would have been obviously even more enjoyable. I believe that Machu Picchu was discovered, well, it was by an American, in 1911, I think it was. I think it was the early part of the 20th century, and it had been hidden for years. But anyway, obviously, if you're interested in the Incas, I suppose if you're not, it's a fascinating background, why they died out, what happened to them, how did they live. Now you take that for example. Now, I mean, if you climbed up that, I didn't. I think I might have gone so far up it, but I mean, if you climbed up that, even going up any regular steps, that's a hell of a long way up. And that's a climb, that's a climb, you know. So it was pretty hard work, I have to say. So this is sort of panning around Machu Picchu and all the surrounding area. And this is more sort of inside the buildings, as it were. And I suppose this is all Inca architecture. And here again, it looks to me as though we've got that sort of stonework pattern, you know. Everything fitting perfectly. And I mean, this is all of some significance. I mean, like, this isn't just any old room, I don't think. It's a particular room, I think, but I can't remember the details now. As I've ever did remember them, likewise. So that looks quite a feat of architecture, doesn't it? Ancient architecture. And again, you know, various rooms that the Incas lived in. Machu Picchu again here. No jokes there about old ruins, right? Machu Picchu. Right, we're now on our way back down on the train again, I think. Anyway, this is a hydroelectric scheme near, if it's not actually at Machu Picchu, it's near to it. And this is trying to sell things to people on the train on the way back. Oh, this was at the hotel. They had a Peruvian folk evening or whatever, and I just sneaked a photo. Now then, this I think is Cuscos, might be a market in Cuscos. A sort of poor roadside scene in Peru. Now, this might be Ollantaytambo, or however it's pronounced. We come towards the end of the holiday actually. You haven't seen the kitchen, Alan, have you, by the way?
I think I saw it.
Oh, you did when Terry was doing it.
When Terry was doing it, I went to see Terry.
The reason I suddenly went to that was because I thought to myself, at the end of the holiday, it was on my mind that I was back kitchen, so I'd have to put the stuff back that I'd taken out in order to make myself a cup of tea.
Yeah.
There's one Isaac and a couple of the local lads. The boy on the left there, I think it was him, I got talking to, and he spoke quite good English. He was asking me where I was from, what my name was, and all the rest of it. But his mate on the right didn't speak any English at all, I don't think, you know. But so this is at the market, or near the market. And this is, I mean, I don't suppose any of our group ventured down here, but I tend to wander off. So the main market was sort of a little bit up there, as it were, and I just sort of wandered around the side streets, or this particular side street. And I don't know whether they're mud houses, but they look it, don't they, sort of thing. You know. And I mean, I gave these kids a tip because they expect it for lining up. And you see the kids there at the front have got that lamb. That boy on the left may have been the one who was exposing his sort of bare chest earlier. Who I certainly got talking to the guy on the left. And the one in the middle there, the boy who's sort of looking over there, he was in the previous slide. This is perhaps taken from Pizak. It's certainly Peruvian scenery. Now, our hotel had a very nice courtyard. And this looks as though it's like a cowboy draw, you know. Yeah, a very nice courtyard, this hotel. And then we went back to Lima because we had time to kill, because our flight didn't go until the evening. So we went back to Lima, and we could have had some of them had a room at the hotel, sort of, not for the night, but just to sort of sit around in rather than wait at the airport. So I didn't use the facility, but I went in the lounge and walked about, sort of thing. But we were killing time, ready for our flight home that evening. And the alternative was to spend extra hours at the airport. And they thought, well, you might as well spend extra hours in a nicer environment, you see, kill the time there. And that was our hotel. And this is Madrid airport. So that was an 11-hour flight. We flew from Lima overnight back to Madrid. This time it was an 11-hour flight. We'd come that bit further. So we're now at Madrid airport. And this is on, I think we're now looking over good old Blighty, over England, I think. We were now not far off landing at Heathrow, perhaps, having flown from Madrid. I think that's right. Anyway, that is now Heathrow Airport at round about 6 o'clock in the evening, and sort of that sort of finished it all off. You saw I think you saw 560 slides, Alan. Yeah. You're going to get a test on them now, you see. Can you put the light on me, if you don't mind?
That's impressive.
I'm supposed to be showing them with some people, some friends of mine from the Baptist Church. I'm supposed to be coming around Friday night to see them, so yeah, that'll be twice.
So we were the guinea pigs for this one.
Yeah, you were the guinea pigs. But I probably won't be any more knowledgeable. And I didn't, although I got rough notes down there, I didn't look at them, you know. So do you want to come in tomorrow night if I ever go on in?
Yeah, I mean, shall we say a time, or do you want to phone?
Well, you say a time. Well, I'll try and get onto this cheap phone line sort of thing.
Yeah. Just sometime after 6, or is that too early?
Say 7.
7, yeah.
All right. I'm hoping it will be over, you know, but I'll follow the instructions through it. And it will be over. Because, as I say, I made a note in longhand. And I'm hoping that will do the trick.
Okay, just get to this plug. Shall I put this down?
Oh, that's all right. I'll see to that. Don't worry about that. I'll see to that. No, it's all right.
Yeah,
you've
I
got to put that down to get to the thing, haven't you? Of course you have. Right. But I'll leave it in the same position so that it's all ready for the people to play. Can you reach there? Okay. Your radio still there. You remember that? We've got it on memory.
You still use it?
Yeah, occasionally. It's tuned to Radio 5 Live. So if I have Radio 5 Live on, I use that, yeah. Oh yeah, I do use it from time to time. But I don't use that one all that much.
No.
Mainly.
CDs on it?
Oh yeah, play CDs, but I don't really do that much. I don't find time, you know, and tapes. Radio-wise, I use it normally on a Saturday afternoon to listen to the football, radio Kent football. Apart from that, sorry, Rob, apart from that, I don't really use it all that much. So, I hope I haven't kept you up too late.
No, it's been interesting.
Yeah. Oh, I hope
good,
you have.
yeah.
I found it interesting, you know. But I don't bother to edit them down. I just feed them in and you see them warts and all. If I show them to a group, like the church women the other week, I showed them some of the Indian slides. We'll have to whittle those down. Obviously I couldn't show.
How long do you take to show them?
About 40 minutes. But although it took me 40 minutes to show them, I reckon the preparation time, actually sorting them out, which one shall I show them, making notes, because if you get an audience like that, you've got to have some notes down, you know, getting the camera, the population, blah, blah, blah. I reckon that with getting it all ready, and also getting this, because they use my, no, they don't use my screen, they use my projector, I get a lift round there. And also, when all the stuff comes home again, putting it all back in the boxes, taking the edited slides out, I reckon 6 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, just for 40 minutes. No, I mean, I'm not complaining about it because I said I'd do it. I'm just making a comment, that's all. I'm not moaning because I said I'd do it, I knew what I was doing, but I haven't got that sort of time. In fact, I'm so busy these days, I've given up the work with the Blind and Disabled Association, and I've given up my treasurership, at least I will at the end of the year. I've told the woman in advance. I just haven't got the time, you know, and I've given these people fair notice. But with the blind and disabled thing, I did it for about 5 years, certainly 4 years.
That's where you went out on visits?
On the outings.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, I push wheelchairs quite a bit, not just me. But I wasn't really, my heart wasn't really in it.
No.
Also, I didn't have the time. And I was coming back and working at the desk and I thought, come on, you know. And the woman said to me, because losing me was quite a loss. I'm not saying, look how indispensable I was, I'm not. But a man, you see, has the physical strength to push a wheelchair. And they haven't got that many men, you see. So it was quite a loss. And they said, you know, would you reconsider? I said, no. And she said, she thought at first she'd upset me. She said, well, who's upset you? And I said, no one's upset me. On the contrary, everyone's been very good to me over the years. No one's upset me. And then she said, don't you enjoy it anymore? And I didn't like to say no. I said, I'm just too busy, which is partly so, but I wasn't enjoying it anymore. And then the NCH, I'm going to pay the last lot of money in this Friday, which came from a Tesco Carol collection, outside Tesco, sing Christmas carols on last Saturday. I'll pay that in, and then that's it. I've told the woman, you know, I just haven't got the time now, you know. And I've distanced myself from hands. I haven't actually resigned from them definitely, but I've distanced myself. In fact, the only thing I'm doing now is the